Rolling Thunder.
Welcome to The Real Generation Gap. I'm Rudy Ruiz.
And I'm Fred Satilli.
And today we're going to discuss the 1977 film Rolling Thunder. So Rolling Thunder follows Major Charles Rain, who returns from a 7-year stint as a prisoner of war in Vietnam. As he comes back, he realizes that the world's kind of left him behind. His family has moved on. But once some criminals come in and they take away his family and his hand, this begins his journey of vengeance. This movie stars William Devane as Charles Rain, a young Tommy Lee Jones, and Linda Haynes. It was directed by John Flynn from a script by Paul Schrader, probably most famous for writing Taxi Driver. But from what I understand, the script was changed quite a bit. I'm going to say right off the bat, I really enjoyed this movie. This is the third time I've seen it. It's gotten better for me each time. Is this one that you have seen before, or is this your first
I
viewing?
actually remembered seeing it once before a long time ago. And it's interesting now because Tommy Lee Jones is unrecognizable. I know him from Men in Black. That's like when you say his name, that's what I picture. You know, his more recent stuff and everything. So seeing him at that young an age was like, I had to get closer to the screen, yeah, that is him, isn't it? That kind of thing. And William Devane is an interesting guy because he's been in lots and lots of stuff. He has a tremendous, discography or whatever you call it in movies, filmography. They do say filmography.
Yeah.
Okay. But to me, he never really did anything heavy. And to tell you the truth, I think of him as the guy in the TV show Knots Landing.
Okay.
That's what I could think of him that way. And then he did a whole bunch of other stuff. A whole bunch of movies, but he's tremendously prolific and everything, but nothing great. And I felt it was the same way here. He's got this sort of snide look on his face all the time, like, oh yeah? Kind of like that,
Yeah.
Somehow it typecasts him for me. It's I can never really, even when he was in this movie, he didn't emote at all. He was the stoic because he was the prisoner.
Yeah.
He couldn't feel pain anymore. He had been through more torture than what you could do. When they put his hand in the garbage disposal.
And he just takes it.
He's like,
takes it.
I can do this. Is this what you want to do? I don't think I enjoyed it quite the way you did. It was good to review for me.
Yeah.
Now I know the movie. Once we got into it, the garbage disposal scene was a major, I remember this. I do, but I didn't remember much else. But one of the things, a movie like this that's this old, the film grain, it was made on VHS tape.
Almost, yeah.
Yeah, it really did look cheap.
Yeah, because I have the Blu-ray, so it's
of course you do.
It's and it's HD, but you can tell, the transfer isn't that great. It's not like they really up-resed it or anything. You can very clearly see
it's 1080 or something.
Yeah. It's you might as well be watching the film print almost. And the first time I saw this was actually in a theater, a double feature with Taxi Driver. So my first experience was a print, and for me, it's this. I think I said this was my third time watching it. It's actually the first time I was all right. It's kind of cool. I dig it. Enough for me to buy it. Watched it again. This was my third viewing, and each time it's actually gotten better for me. I think I appreciate it. I've appreciated it the most on this most recent viewing, and on the Charles Rain character, William Devane. I honestly I've never seen the show that you reference. I'm not familiar with his other projects. So this is all I really know of him. And I actually really like his understated performance. And the same with Tommy Lee Jones. For not saying a lot, I think he's incredible. Just the way he is a shell of a man the whole time. And you sense it just as soon as they get off the plane. Just the way him and Charles interact together. Right. It seems
they've had so much stripped away.
Yeah.
And when you say a shell of a man, and it really was exemplified where near the end of the movie where he said, I found the guys who killed my wife and my kid and everything. And he says, let's clean it up. Let me go get my gear.
Yeah.
Let me
get my gear.
He's not even it was no hesitation. I know exactly what to do. Let's go.
Yep.
We're going. We're up.
And they're a camaraderie. There's such loyalty between these two guys.
You can never, you'll never have that. It's to the death.
Yeah. And so going to that scene, it's funny. When I saw this in the theater, that is the moment where everyone's like, yeah, like ready to go. Like everyone's excited to see, like, all right, they're going to get the bad guys. Tommy Lee Jones is with them. You know, the moment he says, I'll just get my gear, like, no hesitation, no other dialogue. It's so simple.
John, can I talk to you for a minute?
Oh, yeah.
Excuse me.
Is that home? I'm sorry about all this, Major.
That's all right, John. I found them.
Who?
The man who killed my son.
I'll just get my gear.
They're in a whorehouse over in Juarez right now. There's the 4 that came into my home, and there's 8 or 10 others.
Let's go clean them up.
And when he's grabbing the shotgun and he's smiling, this is the first time we see him show emotion. When he's like grabbing his gun, he's got a smile on his face.
Yeah, he's in the
Let's
zone.
go clean him up.
He's in the zone now.
And even when they're in the car talking about the plan and when he's grabbing, like those are the only times you see a positive emotion from him. And it's really sad and telling when first they're sitting there with the family and they're having this conversation.
We're going to talk about that.
And he's just not even into any of it, just like not even present, none of this. And as a matter of fact, the whole time he's kind of just looking at Major Rain, you know, looking at his friend, not even a part of any of this.
Right, like reading his face. Like, are we okay? Are we okay? Or what are we doing?
Mm-hmm.
What, you know, and all that other stuff was really white noise to him.
Yeah.
He wasn't hungry. He might never need dinner.
Mm-hmm.
Like he's used to starvation. Like,
yeah.
And those people were so shallow and so far from understanding him. There's a real lot of that in life where you have relationships with people who can't begin to imagine what you're all about. They can't even begin to imagine. Like it's not when I mean just what I'm saying. They can't even begin to imagine. Like even if they think they can imagine, they're still not even 10% of the way there. You know, and that's so this guy comes home from this incredible ordeal and everything is just superfluous and useless and stupid and petty and minor and there he is, right? And there he is. And this is his work. He's got no place else to go.
Yeah.
This is his town. These are his people. This is where he's from and all that. And just imagine being that alienated, that incredibly alienated. I had an experience myself that was probably 10% of that. I lived in New Jersey. I had a big family in New Jersey, and my whole life was there. And when I divorced, I came here to L.A. I drove here in a car. And when I arrived in L.A., I lived in Hawthorne. And when I arrived there and looked at the streets up and down, I didn't care about any of the people. I didn't care about any of the stores. I didn't care about any of the anything. And I was so alone that I felt like I could easily kill somebody and no one would ever know because I was invisible. Like nobody cared about me either. But back in New Jersey, everybody knew me. I couldn't do a thing. And people walked, there's Fred, that's Fred. But here it was like, man, what a desert of humanity, even though it was jam-packed with people.
Yeah.
None of them meant anything to me. I had no history with any of the places, and I tried to achieve it. I went to the Strand, and I went to places where I knew like Jim Morrison had been and stuff like that. And I'm like, well, here I am. You know, this is like the whiskey, right? Like this is like, here I am. Like, I went to the Winter Nationals of drag racing. I never thought I'd go in my life. I was a drag racer, but now here I was, right? Like in the song, you know? And it still didn't mean a lot. It took me a long time to become an Angelino like I am now.
Yeah.
You know, now I'm here.
Yeah.
You know, but it took a long time. And I have to imagine that for soldiers coming home, it probably takes a long time to reassimilate and to see value in the surroundings and value in the people in the surroundings and just all that stuff.
Yeah.
You know, when I lived in Singapore, nobody there really cared about the U.S. other than Hollywood. was the only thing like if a movie came out, they knew about it. But otherwise, the politics and if there was a hurricane or something, it was a world away, and that was interesting. So I had nothing like the prisoner of war thing or anything that I drove across the country. But it was that small, 10% of that feeling.
Little taste of that.
Right. Yeah. Little, like, look at like, man, oh man. Anyway.
I did think it was
back to the movie.
And I did think it was interesting too that when they leave, and they're both in full uniform. This is the last thing I'll say about this scene, but that Tommy Lee Jones, his name's John.
In the most conspicuous car on the planet.
The big red Cadillac. But the only person he says bye, he's like, oh, you're gonna miss your dinner, this and that. And the only person he says bye to is his father. Right. Which I thought was interesting. Like everyone else was invisible.
Joni, come on in, everything's ready.
Me and the Major gonna go out and get some beer. We'll be back after a while.
Well, what about your dinner? Why are you wearing that thing? He never wears his uniform when I ask him to.
Goodbye, Daddy. Bye, son.
Well, where are you going?
And he says goodbye to him. It's very probable that he's going to die doing this. He's
probably not coming back, and he'd be fine with that, I think.
Goodbye, Dad. Goodbye, Dad.
Yeah.
Yeah. That was a very heavy moment.
Yeah. When they get off the plane, there's just this array of indifference, and Charles Rains, our main character that we get to know. And even when we get into this dialogue where, he's back with his wife, with his young son that he hasn't seen since his son was a baby. So there's a lot of discussion about them trying to reconnect. And we got Cliff, who's a police officer. We're going to talk
about him.
And when we get to this moment, though, when Charles' wife comes clean to him, which I do like the way this plays out. There's not a lot of fluff in this movie.
Right.
And the people are very straightforward when she's like, hey, you were gone for a while. We thought you were dead. Cliff broke up with Peggy and we kind of we're together now. He proposed. And that Charles is just like, yeah, all right, just takes it. Like it just doesn't even matter. And his biggest,
it's far from the worst thing that's ever happened to him.
And I do like that she keeps talking about it, but he does get to a point where he's like, I don't want to talk about this anymore. Yeah. And just the fact that he's staying in the shed because he's so used to being in this prison situation that he's in there. And that scene with him and Cliff, I love just the subtext, like, and both of them, their vibe, their look when he comes in. And I can appreciate that he's trying to be a man, right? He even says, like, what kind of man would I be if I ran away from this? I feel like we should talk about the fact, I'm with your wife or whatever. He brings him the beer. And you can tell Charles is just so detached, but he's going to hear him out. And you really get the sense that Cliff is trying to act like he doesn't want to hear about this stuff that happened to him, but he definitely does. That's the underlying. And then when Major Rain and gives him, and this is kind of his key to the rest of the.
You want to know about it? Start torturing me. I'll show you how to torture me. See how long you last as the torturer, not even the one.
You got to learn to love the rope. That's how you beat him. Yeah.
Yeah.
But no, that's a pretty gnarly scene.
Sure you do. I show you. See, they had this little rope trick. Yeah, they were kind of happy with it. What they did was, see, is they got you down on your knees in front of them, see? Like this. And then they tied your arms behind you. See, here, help me out. Give me. Just help me out. Tie that arm to this one real close. Okay.
Like this?
That's right. Tighter, man. They did it tighter.
All right. You sure you want to go through this again, huh, Charlie?
Yeah, of course I'm sure. Go ahead, now you take on the loose ends.
All right.
And you pull it up in the air like you're going to take me clear on up to the ceiling.
All right. Like this?
All right, that's it. Now higher, man, higher till you hear the bones starting to crack. That's it. Higher! Come on, higher! Higher!
All right, Charlie. That's enough.
They used to do that to us twice a day.
I don't know how you took it.
You learn to love the rope. That's how you beat them. That's how you beat people who torture you. You learn to love them. And they don't know you're beating them.
God, it's crazy the things that people go through. And Cliff even says, he's like, I've been in my share of scraps, but it gets you thinking, like, if I was there, could I have taken it,
I wonder about that myself in combat. I graduated from high school in 73. They had stopped the draft. I got my draft card, and they ended the war. So I dodged that bullet, right?
Yeah.
But to this day, I wonder, how would I have held up in combat?
Right.
How would I have, peed myself? Or would I have been, like a night hunter? I had a friend who, he was a close range killer. I mean, he went in the woods at night and come back with blood on him. That's that guy. Now the confinement thing, okay, he's used to confinement. He doesn't want to sleep in the house with his family because he might wake up with nightmares and freak out and kill everybody, right? Like, you don't know. Now, I had a friend who was in solitary for 18 months, and they let him out on a Friday, and he was brought home. His daughter picked him up and brought him home, and he called me the next day, and he said, Fred, I woke up in the middle of the night, and I went down to the kitchen, and I realized it was the first time I had opened a refrigerator in 18 months. He said, I almost felt like I had never seen a refrigerator before. I opened it up and I looked around in there and I wondered what was in there. And it was surprising to me to see what was in there. So confinement does that. The longer the time is, the harder it is to just mow the lawn, or it's like, look at this thing, look at that, like, oh, this is my mailbox or something, like there's something in it maybe. Like, that's a real weird thing, the confinement thing. Now, the Cliff, I'll give the audience a little background. The hero's wife, during the 7 years he was gone, they first of all, they didn't know right away that he was captured. They thought he was dead. And she said the men came around like a wolf pack. They were all your friends, people from your unit and everything. They all came around looking for me. She said, but this guy, Cliff, was a real gentleman about things, and he took care of me to some degree, fixing things around the house, and he wasn't forward. And she said, but, finally it did happen, and we fell into each other's arms, And he was a policeman in the town, so he was used to handling a gun. And you brought up the real good thing. He said, I wonder how I would have held up, right? So after a while, when the criminals came to steal his money, because the town had given him a chest of silver dollars, one for every day incarcerated, so it was worth a couple of grand. Now that would be worth like 30,000, but in the movie it's 2,000, right? So a bunch of Texas good old boys. This takes place in San Antonio. They come. They're going to rob him of that, and in the process of the robbery, they kill the wife and child, and they put his. They want to know where it is, and they put his hand in the garbage disposal, and he's completely okay with it. I mean, he's like, torturing me, and they grind his hand off, but he still doesn't talk. And then they do find the money, and off they go. So now he's fixed with a prosthetic hook hand, right, which he sharpens to a razor sharp as it becomes a weapon. And he starts to hunt for the killers. He doesn't tell anybody he's hunting for the killers. I really like that. He's like, oh, no, I moved on. I moved on. In the meantime, he's hunting them, and he finds them. But he's still not, he doesn't overreact still. He's very measured. I have plenty of time to kill these guys. And all of a sudden, the car disappears, and Cliff, the policeman, he realizes what's going on. He's never said anything, one word about it, but he is going, and now he's going to back him up. He says, put out like an APB for the car, and just don't tell anybody about it. Just let me know where he is. Right, and he's going to Juarez, which is right over the border. Now, one of the things that was shocking to me in this movie was the difference between Juarez now and then. Like, Juarez was like, you could just drive in there. There was nobody at the crossing,
just
or anything.
willy-nilly go back and forth.
Whatever. He's in there driving up and down the streets in a giant red Cadillac, a convertible with the top down, and he's searching for the guys. So now the policeman is a gentleman and he's an honorable man. And he's in conflict because he does want the woman that he loves, but he realizes that he's the interloper. And he realizes that he has a certain duty to the family. And now the killers have killed his girlfriend and her son. So he's got an immediate personal stake, plus he's got a combined stake in this thing, and he realizes he's got to get in the game, right? So he goes down there, and he's going to take a few of them out. He's loaded for bear, and it's going to, and he's going to be fearless because part of his soul is stripped away by this too.
Oh, yeah.
He has to make himself good with William Devane, with Raines, because how would you hold up, right? Here's a man, I'm a man. This is what this man's doing. I got to measure up. Right? You don't have to. Rain's girlfriend was like, we could just drive away and never think of this again. And that really pissed me off. That's selfishness. And she wanted in her life, she had a bad upbringing, and she wanted a hero. So when he was a prisoner, she wore an armband in memory of him the whole time, and she was kind of famous for it a little bit. It's like, this is my soldier, my captured. People did that. They wore the ID bracelet and stuff, right? I don't think you remember, but they did. And but she wanted him to be her hero. Like, you're a hero, and now I have a man who's a hero. And she was young and beautiful, and she just imagined that she could. He knew the wife was going to be out of the picture. She was sort of the answer. This was her answer, and she was just selfish, And this is what I mean about not knowing what. Like, have some sensitivity about this guy. You think he's coming home for you and he's going to be you don't even know what this guy's made of. You don't have the slightest idea how he's been chemically altered. You know what I mean? You're going to have to deal with PTSD at a degree that you can't even imagine. Maybe for life, probably for life.
Yeah.
And here you are, you're hoping he's going to fill some need of yours. I mean, it's really chicken shit. It's really selfish, just really two-bit selfishness. And that they had a character like that, it was interesting to me. It was good writing. But the writer had insight into how that could be.
Yeah.
And I really appreciated that.
Yeah. And I definitely, I appreciate it too, is it feels authentic. Like, this young girl would be that way, and put him on a pedestal when she's having that conversation in the hospital. Like, oh, you have a groupie. It means I would do anything for you. I love you, this and that.
He's like, I don't want anything from you. You think I want something from you?
Yeah, and because he's quiet, he's calm and cool and quiet about it. And we can surmise later on that during his time in the hospital, he's formulating his plan. So when she says that to him, I feel like that's already the moment of, I can use this.
Right. Yeah,
so for him, like, I guess we could say in a way he's selfish too, in that he's going to use her as a tool, which he does, right? He puts her in some rough situations because that's his end. He doesn't
promise her anything.
Yeah, not
at all. He doesn't
say,
if you do this for me, I'll do that for you.
Yeah, he's just like, hey, you want to come with me to Warriors right now? I got to go see some old friends. And she's like, you expect me to just drop everything and leave? And I love how he doesn't say anything. He just walks away.
Right.
Boom, drops the tray, and she because he knows he's got that power over her,
Well, she instantly gives him that when they meet.
Yeah.
I'm
right
yours.
out the gate.
I'm yours. I'm your slave. You're the shot caller.
And she made it very clear herself. And I mean, I just love how in the hospital, he's talking to Tommy Lee Jones, is like, they ain't got any right to live or whatever. And he's like, it's all right. There's time. Like you mentioned, when Cliff comes in, like, I want to kill those guys. Are you sure you can't remember anything? He's like, nope, I don't remember any of it. But we come to find out he knows all their names, where they were going. It's all very clear to him.
Right. He remembered every single second. Can you imagine being able to concentrate like that? The guy's got your hand, and then you're listening to everybody.
Yeah.
They're like, we'll meet you here. We'll do that there. He's ingraining that into his brain.
And I love the simple foreshadowing of, we see him practicing with the hook. Like, oh, he's putting the cigarettes away. He's trying.
Yeah, he's loading.
He's failing.
The magazine.
Later
right.
when he's loading you see, like, obviously time's gone by, and he just like, bang, loading that revolver easy with his hook.
Yeah.
After he sharpened it and sawed it. And again, no dialogue. There's no point where he's talking to somebody about his master plan. It's like, his friend drops him off home from the hospital, and the next shot is sharpening the hook, sawing off the shotgun. There's nothing said. We all just know what's going to happen, what he's about to do. And I love that.
When you talk about sawing off the shotgun, I love it that's the moment of realization for Cliff. Cliff goes looking for him. He goes in the garage. He sees the barrels cut off. He's like, there's only one reason to do that.
Yeah.
I know what I got to do. He's a policeman.
Yeah.
He has resources. I got to get on the team here. I killed my girlfriend and her son.
And going back to, you were kind of going down Cliff's pathway throughout this whole movie. I was spoilers as always, everyone. I was very surprised that he just gets whacked. Like, he takes out a few guys,
right?
But then he just in a pretty brutal way too. He's on the floor. The guy shoots him in the head, whatever. And I was like, oh man, okay, it's like that.
This
is that movie.
Yeah,
he's off the board.
He cashed in his chips. He pushed it all onto the table.
Yeah, and it's a shame because he wasn't a bad character. Like, that dude didn't deserve to die for this.
So heartlessly.
Yeah, exactly. It's
wanted to
it's
have
a real
him a
shame.
little heroic moment, but he just thinned the herd on the upcoming battle. And that guy, his name in real life was Lawrence Driscoll, and he never really had a lot of other movie roles. He was in some TV shows, like he was in a couple MASH episodes.
Okay.
That guy, but he didn't have like a big career or anything. And for my money, he could have. It was like somehow he just not in the right place at the right time, maybe. But I just wanted to say his name.
Yeah, well, that's good.
It's an unusual name, Lawrison Driscoll. I thought he did a great job in the movie.
Yeah.
And the movie did have lots of good characters, and he was one of them. It was a surprising good character, like he turned out to be more than, he just said he was like the interloping sleazy guy, like hitting on the prisoner's wife or something, but he was not.
Yeah.
He was a dignified, honorable man. And he just was in this circumstance that who could ever guess it? And
it could have, I feel like a lesser writer. I mean, I shouldn't say a lesser, but I feel like most other people would have gone the route of he just would have been a piece of shit character that they would have made you hate, and
right.
I'm glad it wasn't quite that. And I'm glad too that with Charles Rain to see this version of a character where it's not like he ever flies off the handle or goes crazy. I love First Blood. I think that's a great movie. And in that it works, but you never see a moment where he's in a scuffle and then all of a sudden Rains is like, goes nuts and is, doing like when Rambo escapes from the prison, and I like, and again, how, when they're trying to shave him, but I love how methodical he is. And again, using Linda to be the end, to get the information and to get the guys to soften up for him to roll in and just be like, all right, go start the car.
She's a distraction.
Yeah. And then he takes everybody down.
Yeah. Anybody that tells you to start the car, it's going down. That's the line. That is the line. Yeah. And I'll tell you a story about that when we're off, when we're not in the show here, because it's really nothing to do with this.
But I love when they get to that second bar too, when he sees Automatic Slim, I think was the guy, like the Texan guy, the one who, when they're first kind of punching him, who's like, don't act tough, man. I was in Nam too, but I was face down in the mud while you were in the air. Like that guy.
Right, because he was a pilot. That's why he was captured. Yeah, it was really bad.
But when they're having this scuffle and when he gets him in the crotch with the hook and he's dragging her and he's just like, nope, don't hit him. Stop. He's like, let him go.
Yeah, you're in trouble when somebody's got a hook in your crotch. Now, one of the things that I always notice a little bit more than you is the music. And in this particular movie, the music was non-existent. Yeah. And the theme song was garbage.
San Antonio.
Yeah, that was really like, that could have been done by a high school kid. And I don't like it when movies have like a theme song. But even during the body of the movie, there was really no dramatic soundtrack.
Right.
It's kind of just a quiet background and everything. And I just wanted to remark on that because I'm kind of music focused.
Yeah.
All in all, I don't have too much more to say about this movie. It did have a lot of great scenes. It did have a lot of good character development on the different characters and everything. For me, it's just in the mid range, like it was made in 1977, and during that time there was very like you can almost tell like the film quality. You can almost tell that it's from that era. Like before that, they had better film. And then after that, they had much better film. But there was a period in there of about 10 years where the movie quality itself was like I said, looked like it was made with a VCR camera. Like,
Yeah.
you know.
Yeah, so I watched this back to back with The Russians Are Coming. And I was thinking of that I had a little double feature. I was thinking of that very thing. So it's cool that you brought that up. How, each decade you see where movies looked a little different. And a lot of that's lighting along with advancements in film and whatnot. But how 60s movies have a very particular look. In 70s, somehow, like the movies just had a raw edge to them, just like something about it. And especially watching them back to back, you see how clean and clear The Russians Are Coming is. Even, I watched it on YouTube. It was a really good
that's a
HD
good,
scan,
Yeah. It's a 10-year
exactly,
difference.
yeah.
So.
And it's interesting to see that. I know there's a lot to do with like film prints and how good the transfers and scans are, all that technical stuff. But just overall, there's a quite different look. But I love the aesthetic of 70s movies over a lot of older films. But yeah, I'll talk about the ending just a little bit here.
Okay.
I think the payoff is very good. It's so worth it when they get to that point. I love a good cathartic revenge movie.
They both have bullet wounds when they leave the scene.
Oh yeah.
They both of those soldiers have taken a bullet at some point. Mm-hmm. I think Devane Rains.
Yeah.
I think he took 2.
Yeah.
If I remember correctly. He's been shot twice. It just okay. Mm-hmm. I'm still running. I'm still
But
it takes a lot of training.
Yeah, for sure.
People don't realize when you get shot, it's not the kinetic energy of the hit that knocks you down. It's that your whole nervous system goes crazy and you fall down. Mm-hmm. Like you don't know, you lose your balance and everything, and you collapse. You can't stand. But if you're trained well enough, you can take a bullet and stay in there. Mm-hmm. And it's the same thing with boxing. Mm-hmm. When you're boxing, the guy's going to punch you in the face. Yeah. You have to know that and not let it hurt your plan.
Right.
Like that's okay. Took a bullet, took a punch in the face. Like that it takes a lot of training to take a hit anywhere and to shrug it off and continue the mission. You're still on mission, until you're dead. Yeah. You're still, right to the end. Mm-hmm. And you see that in a lot of scenes in movies, thank God not in real life, but you see that where the person really stays in the game right to the end. We watched that movie with Ed Begley Jr., the one
Strange Darling,
right, where that girl stayed. She was right.
Yeah, she was fighting for that breath
until her eyes closed. Yeah. That last breath, she's like one more breath. Yeah. When you're living one breath at a time, that's a lot worse than one day at a time, right? But yeah,
it is the payoff in the end is completely worth it. I just love their plan of, hey, go upstairs, take a hook or whatever, and just wait for me to tap the gun, then get set. And how, again, he's just like trying to take his time up there with this lady and I need you to take it off for me. He's just waiting. Doesn't care anything about this.
No.
He's just ready. And even to the point when he's setting up the gun and she's like, what are you doing? And he's like, we're going to kill a bunch of people. So nonchalant. Right. Yeah. I just remember in the theater, everyone laughed at that line. I laughed too. Just such a funny line. Like, oh, we're just going to kill a bunch of people. And he goes out and
perfect
blow these dudes away. And they get all the culprits.
And that's one of those things too. Like, she is so detached from the fact that that's going to happen any second that she doesn't even overreact. She's like, well, wait a minute. What are you talking about? Like, no, this is not, we're not going to have a conversation about this. This is any second now. Yeah. You're going to be on the floor. Yeah. Wishing you hadn't taken your clothes off,
Yeah. It's really good. I love that it just ends to, again, no fluff. Oh, yeah. They stand up.
The credits roll.
Let's go home. And as they're walking out, the credits roll.
Yeah, and everybody's looking at them. They're down the steps and out to the big red car. Yeah. Right? Yeah, we're going back to the U.S. now with a couple of bullet wounds and a trail of dead bodies. And man, oh, man.
I'm going to rate this movie I'm going to go a 7.5. It keeps going up there for me. Again, I appreciate it more and more. I think it's a good classic, kind of revenge-o-matic film. I loved, Tommy Lee and William Devane in this, their understated performances.
Yeah, it's pretty realistic that way. Right. And I say this in many of our videos. The more times you see these things, the more you appreciate them because you get more nuances. You remember stuff and you piece stuff together. Like the fact that he was a pilot that was down, and then the first scene in the movie, he's coming home in the jet.
Yeah.
Right. It's like you're used to being in the jet or something. But anyway, 7.5, huh? I'm going to go not quite as good. I'll go with a 6.
Okay.
You know, I wasn't just... To me, it's not a must-see. You know, that's the threshold for me where it goes into the higher digits. If it's a must-see, you know.
Yeah.
And you and I have way different standards on that, what is a must-see or not. But I did enjoy it more this time than the last, just like you. I just say the same thing time after time. If you're going to see it, you almost ought to see it twice.
Yeah.
You know, so once you know the story, then you can appreciate the build-up, you know, and all that. So anyway... I guess we're out, aren't we?
Yeah.
We just roll. Right, we should have just an ending now that just rolls credits.
Yeah.
Like we just have that kind of the same as.
Yeah. Well, that's a wrap on this one, everybody. Let us know. Have you seen this movie? Share your thoughts. And as always, if you got a recommendation for us, leave a comment. Cheers.